Chandler, and I am excited for you to be here. First of all, I'd love to show you guys, and I'm the type person, when I take a class or find a skill, I'm like, why do I want to do this? How is this going to help me? Like, I just don't want to learn the skill to be learning the skill. Like, who does that? That's kind of boring. So I want to show you all, we're going to go from kind of like those movies that show you the end and then you go and you flash back to the beginning. I want to show you what you can do with this pattern that we're going to learn today. Now, the concept can be taught and learned with any quilt pattern, but I'm going to show you what I have created. And I'm going to turn it around here. And I actually have created a bomber jacket with the pattern. And then I'm going to spotlight for everyone. So as you can see, this bomber jacket here is actually the pattern that we're going to be learning how to sew today. And again, it's any pattern, but I just wanted you to see what you can do with what we are working with today. So this is what you can actually do. I'll show you it's put on point, so it looks totally different than the block that you're going to see here, because I have put it on point and I created this jacket. The men's, it happens to be a men's, but it could be a woman's. And so that's kind of the finished project, right? Let's flash back and I'm going to show you, here is what the block looks like. This is what it turned out, but here is what it looks like. And what happened is I actually put it on point. So when you put this block on point, it totally changes the dynamic of the block. So for instance, I'm going to show you guys my tabletop. And again, I'm going backwards. So we're going to get to how we actually get this all cut out. So I randomly selected the fabrics and randomly put them together. So this is what it would look like once I sew them together. Let's have an odd number. Oh, well. So that's kind of what it looked like. Now, when you put this on point, though, you can leave it like that. I love putting things on point because I love putting my quilt blocks on point because I feel like it really gives them a lot of movement. So now when I put this on point and I look at it like this, then you're going to see something totally different. See how you see up in here, this pattern comes out. So I would encourage you all to do some fun stuff like that, move it around, put it on point, see what you come up with. So let's start with, how do you even get this going? How do you even start, Sandra? What do you need? So supplies. First of all, you need a Cricut. Second of all, you need, I love the Rotary Blade. Depending on what you're cutting, I like the Rotary Blade. They also have several other blades that you can use depending on the fabrication. And what you would need to do is first figure out what blades those are. For instance, this is a fine cutting blade. I believe that's what it's called. Here's another blade, particular type of blade. And so it depends on what you're cutting, and your machine will not cut your project if it doesn't have the proper blade inside. And it knows, because it's going to record the blade. So you can't make a mistake because it's telling you what kind of blade you need for what you have. I like the rotary, so I always tell it that I'm cutting fabrications that would take the rotary. Other things that I like is I love this little tool. It helps you pick off, and you'll see me using it. It helps me pick the fabric off of the mat. Just at FYI, Joann's Fabrics has sponsored the products here. So shout out to Joann's Fabrics for helping a Black woman creator be able to go out and create. This also is kind of like a spatula. You'll see me use that. This is a scraper. It helps scrape off the excess if there's any residue left on your mat. Here's some tongs. We always like tongs. Again, helps you take things, pick fabric off of the mat. I like to, because these are sharp, that's really sharp. I like to replace and cover the blades so that there's no accidents happening, if at all possible. And then I like to keep everything, I'm one of those girls, keep everything right together. So I have this handy dandy little case. Also, this is what we use to make sure the fabric is secured, or whatever you're using, paper, fabric, I don't know, other types of material on the mat, okay? The other thing we need is you have a mat. I have a mat here. I got the fabric grip mat. Oops, I'm sorry. The fabric grip mat, but I've also used other mats that were like firm grip. This one happens to be fabric, but there are firm, I think it's light. So there are different mats, but I have the fabric grip mat. Again, Joann's Fancy Fabric sponsored us this lovely mat. Next, I have my fabric. I do have a rotary cutter. And I do have a ruler. And that's about, and then you need a laptop or an iPad. The iPad will fit right up here on the top. And let me show you how that works. Okay, so if you had an iPad, I have mine hooked up to my computer, but if you had an iPad, you would put it right here. There you go, just like that. And you'd get rid of all your messages. So there's how your iPad would work, okay? So if you had an iPad, you could use it. My iPad at the moment is not hooked up to the system. It's not hooked up with Bluetooth to my to my Cricut. So I just use my computer. But you have that option. Now, it's Bluetooth wired. So I went on my Bluetooth on my laptop computer. So I went to my Bluetooth on my computer before I started to make sure that I was hooked up. Sorry, I'm trying to get you guys so that you guys don't wiggle around, and it's not liking it because I got you at the bottom. There you go. Okay, so first I went to my Bluetooth, my computer, and I went to my systems. Oops. I went to systems. Oh, you know what? Let me screen share. Sorry about that. Okay, now can you guys see? Perfect. So I went to my systems, then I went to Bluetooth. And then if you look, Bluetooth is on. And right now, it's not showing that it's hooked up to, so we're gonna go. It's not telling us it's hooked up. So let's go on the website. Okay, so it's telling us it's not hooked up. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the website, and I'm on the website right now. You see, this is the website. I'm going to move our little bar here. Save. Let's see if that works. Okay, so let's go. There we go. Okay, now let's see if we're live. We're going to go back to our Bluetooth, because if we're not hooked up, it can't tell it, it won't be able to, and I don't see, oh, it's still talking to each other. So see right here, this little spinning, my device is trying to hook up to the Bluetooth. And once it hooks up to the Bluetooth, okay, I'm going to turn it off. I'm turning my system off. Then I'm turning my system back on. And if this doesn't work and you're having problems hooking up to your Bluetooth, what you can also do, hold on, I'm going to get you guys a little situated here. Oh my gosh, it does not want to. Okay, if you're having problems hooking up to the Bluetooth, there is a cord that you can hardwire straight from your Cricut. So here's the cord. Since we don't see it registering right now, you can always hardwire, and you go to the back of your Cricut. And there's a plug. Okay. And then you go to your laptop and you there. Now I've plugged it up to my laptop. And so now it can speak to each other. The next thing I do is I'm going to find a pattern. So I have a pattern here that I'm using, but let's just say you don't have a pattern and you're like, I want to make a quilt. I love to go right in right to projects, and I search quilt. You can do it a couple ways. You can do it this way. So here's quilt blocks. Let's look at this one. What does this one look like? So these are, I think these are half square. They're all different kind of quilt blocks. So it looks like some of them are half square triangles. Let's look at it. I push make it at the bottom here. It's going to load. Okay, so see how these are all different? Here's squares. So like if you just wanted squares, you just needed squares, then I would pick these. I would take and I would actually delete this one. You can delete it. And how you would do that is you would take, I would go continue, I'm pushing continue. but we're not going to cut this. I'm going to go back. I'm going to cancel this. Sorry about that. Yes. So here I am, right? On here. You can easily take and you can hide this selection. You can hide this selection. Hide this selection. Now you just have these. Now, this is, if you wanted to cut nice squares and you didn't want to have to go and cut them all, I personally don't line it all the way up to 1 and 1, because what if my fabric's off a little? I always like to line it off just a little. Now, right now, you don't know what size these are, right? This tells you it's going to cut them on a 12 by 12 inch mat. See that over here? It talks about 12 by 12. So so right here it tells you it's a 12-inch mat. You can change it because like our mat is 12 by 24, I believe it is. So this one only has, I'm sorry, our mat is a 12 by, 24. So you can go to 12 by 24. And now it's going to say, oh, wow, I have tons of room. You see that? And we can, again, hide this one because we don't want to use it. Hide this one. Okay, now we have this again, right? So what you can do is up here in File, there's New Window, Edit. So this is the computer, the program itself. Over here where the hamburger is, this tells you Home, Canvas. We can go to Canvas. Let's look and see what happens there. Now we can actually edit in Canvas, okay? So if we wanted to edit this, because remember we hid some of them. So like here, if you want to edit anything, you go in, and if you notice it's locked up here. You unlock it, but if you don't want to unlock it, you can actually move this around, because this is where you're going to move around your projects. So we're going to move this around. We can actually delete these. We're going to delete them because we want to work with the blocks that look like that. Okay. So now those are all different blocks, but let's say we're gonna really concentrate on, let's do this one. We want to see what that looks like. So I'm gonna pull it out because my block is, or my mat is 12 inches wide. So let's say I want my, and see right here it tells us the size, the width, and the height. So let's say I'm gonna pull this out to 11. Let's do 11. So if I measure it right up to the top here, it's actually tells me it's 10. So we want to go, if I want my blocks 3, 6, 9. So if I want them 9 inches wide, I could bring it down. Do you see at the top there? It goes down, the numbers are going up or down. I'm going to do 9. I just keep pushing until I get the 9. So it's 9 by 9. So now my blocks, these blocks are 9. The whole thing is 9 by 9, right? So now I can move it off because that just gives me the measurements. So now I can go down here. And what if I want to make, so I'm going to get rid of this one because I don't need it. We're going to do just squares. We're going to get rid of, we can use this one. Well, let's play with this one. We'll make this one 9 by 9 also. We're going to cut several different. And at the end, we'll actually cut the one that I've showed you I made projects with. I'm going to make this one, because we have half square triangles here, I think I'm going to make this one larger because I want it to end up 9 by 9. So let's do this one, and we'll make this one 10 by 10. There it is. Okay, so this one's larger. It's 10 by 10. Because remember, there's no seam allowance in these. Actually, I'm thinking, so if it's a 1/4 inch and a 1/4 inch, that's a 1/2 inch and a 1/4 and a 1/4. So I need to make this one 9 by 9 or 10 by 10 also. Because I like my blocks to be, I like 10. There we go. Okay, now we have this one. And we're at 21 and our mat is 24. So we're going to just delete this one because we don't want to run off our mat. It won't allow us to cut off the mat. Okay, so now we have our squares, right? So now what we can do is we will then push make it. Can you guys see that, the make it button? Right up in the corner. I'm sorry, you guys are probably here. Is this better? There we go. So the make it button right up here in the corner, we're going to push make it. So how will you load all of the materials for this project? We're going to load it on a mat. For all materials on mat. And we're telling it our mat is a 12 by 12. And we're going to push continue. So now it's on the mat. So remember, I'm going to move it because I told you I don't like it right up against the top of the mat because the mat starts with 1 and 1, just in case my fabric, it gets caught on the fabric, what have you. Then I'm going to move this down. There we go. So I moved it down. Excellent. So now I've moved it down. Looks like the second mat has something on it. And I don't want anything. I don't want to have a second mat. So we're going to get rid of this. So see how they have multiple mats left over? We're not using any of those mats. We're only cutting the top one. Okay. Continue. So this is where it's going to ask us exactly what we're using. And we can say cotton. And let's see. So here's cotton. It wants the rotary blade. It's asking you, now it's asking you, see how it blinks? It's asking you to load the fabric. Okay. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a piece of fabric. And I'm going to cut that fabric. I'm going to cut my fabric 12 by 24 because that's what our mat is. And so now let me get my rotary cutter out. And I'm going to cut. I like it to be nice and square. So I use my square ruler. First of all, I'm going to make a straight edge. I think I have the wrong rotary blade. You need to make sure your rotary blades are nice and sharp. And so that means finding. Okay. Okay, so we want it 12 by 12. There we go. That's exactly 12 inches. Okay, so from there, so I'm sorry, it's 12 by 24. My bad. I hope you guys caught that. So from there, I'm going to, and this can all be done with a workshop. At your shop, I think this workshop would be a great workshop. It also would help promote your beginning quilting class. I would love to see workshops done with beginning quilters where you have a Cricut and you show them how to do all this. Because I think for beginners, that's the hardest part, is cutting the pattern out and getting that accuracy. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to measure to get my 24 inches. Luckily, my mat is pretty good. And I'm measuring the 24. Now, what I'm going to do, let me go back. What are you guys seeing? You're seeing this. Okay. So what we want to do is, sorry about this, guys. I want to stop screen sharing. Okay, so you guys are seeing my workspace. Okay, so then now you're going to take your mat.
Sandra, we currently see the Zoom screen.
Dang it, that's what I thought. This is where it gets. Okay, I'm trying to look where it stops. I'm trying to pull it off of share screen. And I'm not getting that. Prompt. You know how it says stop sharing?
Are you trying to share the Cricut?
Yes, I'm trying to stop sharing. I want to stop sharing the screen for this moment and show the desktop. Here, there it is. So now do you still see sharing?
still the Zoom screen, because I think you're seeing the whole desktop. Maybe try clicking on the Cricut icon to bring that forward. We see your web browser.
Cricut icon.
The right to the right, the Cricut logo, right next to the QuickTime.
Okay, why do I not see it?
In your toolbar there, where you have the Adobe logo, the stock thing, the Safari logo, your tray of all of the
Oh, you know
Mac
what?
tray of all the things you have open.
There we go. There we go. Okay.
It looks like your pointer's on top of the Cricut logo now.
It is. Here it is. Yay. Okay. So
Now we
now,
see your mat.
sorry about the technical difficulties. Sometimes we get lost. Okay, so your mat comes with this protective plastic. I always put the protective plastic back on my mat because there is kind of a sticky residue that holds the fabric on. So I like that sticky residue to stay sticky. The next thing is I'll place my fabric on my mat. Now I'm going to take and I'm going to roll kind of like making pizza, but you don't get to eat it at the end. So now, whoops. You don't want any like wrinkles or anything like that. Because again, this is going to cut. Okay, so as you can see, I'm rolling my fabric. Nice and easy. So now the next thing is, remember it was asking us to load our fabric. That arrow, this arrow, oops, I'm so sorry. The arrow that's actually flashing, this flashing arrow is saying, I don't have anything in here, so I can't do what you want done until you load a mat. So you load your mat. The next thing you're going to do is, it says C for cut, but I want to show you, I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to screen share. Okay, now I want to show you. So it says basic materials set to custom. So it says pressure default, and the default pressure, you can put more or less. I leave it at the default. Tools and materials loaded, rotary blade. So I have to make sure my rotary blade is in there, and we did. If the rotary blade is not in there, it will adjust, it'll go right across, it'll figure out what you have, and it will stop. And it won't tell you. And you'll be so annoyed because you'll be like, why isn't this cutting? And it's because your blade isn't the correct blade in there. It says press go. So the go is the C. Remember we had the C. So I'm going to stop sharing. We're going to go back. See, it's telling me to press this. If it wasn't loaded, it would tell you to load, but ours is already loaded. So we're good. So now what you do is you push the C. Oh, and the one thing you got to remember is you have to have enough clearance in the back, which I always forget. So remember, your back of your machine is just as important as the front of your machine. So always make sure you have enough clearance. So what I do is when I have a project that I'm cutting like this, I will take, and you can actually tell the machine how many of these sequins you want to cut. And then you can load up your fabric. You can buy multiple mats. You can use one mat and just reload and reload. And then you have the option of going on and doing something else while your quilt blocks are being cut. So you can multitask. Now it's going to unload. Okay, now it's going to tell me to unload this, the mat itself. So what I need to do is I push, my mat comes out. Now you remember those tools I was telling you about? So we have multiple tools. We have one that you can, if you want, look, I can pick, right? And then sometimes, because my blade has been used quite often, I probably need a new blade, or I could have told it to cut it a deeper, a harder cut, a firmer cut. So what I do is I just go through. So you have this, whoops, I'm so sorry. Because you're looking at my mess on the floor, because that's what we do when we videotape. We have this. So now, remember those pieces we had cut? And unfortunately, I always take it off the default and put it on harder, because then I don't have to worry about things like this. It cuts all the way through. So this one, because but there's the square. There's our square, right? We can also use the tweezers. Again, you'll see the next time we cut, we won't have this situation because I'm going to put it on more, and it'll have more pressure and it will cut all the way through. But I wanted you to see what default. Remember, I wanted them 3 by 3. They are measuring 3 and like an 1/8. So I will now have squares. Can you imagine how much faster and more accurate a beginner sewer would be with using this method of cutting out their quilt blocks and sections? This is great also for paper piecing. You can actually cut out the paper piece templates, you know, the templates that you sew sew around, like the half square, the hexagons. You can cut those out with your Cricut. So you never run out. Again, the reason why this didn't cut all the way through is because I believe, first of all, my blade is an older blade. I've cut out quite a few pieces of fabric, but also we're going to increase the pressure. And so we should get a clean cut next time. I have one more left. Look at all of these. All of these that I did not have to cut out. Now, let's go to the next one. Down here, I'm gonna turn the mat around. Remember I was telling you about sometimes you have fabric left on your mat? And you can see here I have some fabric. So just go like this. Pull those up. To clean that up. Okay, so now let's go on to our next one. And again, we're gonna have these pieces. And I'm not gonna go all the way through this one because you kind of get the idea. Because we want to go on to the block that I showed you that my finished project was made from. There you go. Remember? So think of all those. Now, some people would still want to use a square and then and sew down each side of the square to make two half square triangles. But if you don't want to do it that way, here's a way you can end up with two pieces. Okay, so now let's move on to the project that I did. So I'm going to pull these off. So the project I did, which I was so excited about because it cut my project time down so much that I just could not believe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get some packing tape. And I'm going to run the packing tape whatever I get up, wherever I don't, it's okay. Okay, so that's good enough. So now what we're going to do is the project that I worked on only needed my fabric to be 9 by 9. So I'm going to, because that's what I was given. So I'm going to lay my fabric on the mat. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you, we're going to go back to screen share. I'm going to show you how I was able to, so I'm going to cancel this. I'm going to cancel everything. Now I can save this one. So if you want to save a project, what you do is you go up to file, whoops, I'm sorry. You go up to the hold on. You go to, make it, makers. No. If I want to save this one, normally it lets you save. And I'm looking. Okay, oops, you just swiveled around. Okay, so it says save as. So I'm saving that particular project. So let's go back. Here's the project that I was originally going to show you. And this is where I made the men's jacket from. So I pulled up my project. I did the same thing. I went to Quilt Blocks, found the block that I like. I'm sorry, you guys, the bar. I just want to move this bar. Okay, see how it says make it down here? You push make it. Now it goes straight to making it, right? So now this is when it's this platform, this is where it's already been put together. So all I can do is place it on here so that then it cuts it. It cuts the blocks. So this one, remember I told you it's 9 by 9. So I actually put it pretty close up, but my fabric was like literally 9 by 9. So I had to put it pretty close to the top. My fabric's a little smaller, but or a little larger, but basically this is what it looks like. Then I'm going to change this back to the 24 because I do have 24. Then I'm going to push custom. I'm going to show you the difference. So now I'm going to use cotton fabric, but instead of default, I'm going to say more. I want more pressure. It's blinking, telling me to load. I'm going to stop screen sharing here because I want you guys to see. It's telling me to load because it's flashing, right? So anytime you want to load the machine, it has to, or anytime you want to cut, you got to make sure your mats are loaded. Hold on 1 second. We've got technical difficulties. Y'all just fell off the table. I'm going to screw you back on. And now you guys, there you go. So can you see it flashing? Okay, so it's flashing. Okay, so it's flashing right there. That's telling me to load my mat. So I am. I'm going to put it underneath here. I'm going to push the button. The C is flashing now. The C is for cut. Now remember, you have to have room behind your machine. So please, 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 pull your machines out from the walls. Okay, so now it's ready for us to unload. And now let's look at the difference in our cut. Let's see. I'm going to use this, my tweezers. Now, it's so funny because you can't really see where it cuts, but let's see. Here is one of our cuts, and looks like to me my blade is just not sharp enough. So it's time to get a new blade. Okay, so there's that piece. There we go. There we go. Isn't this phenomenal? I just love this. I was like, yes. Look at that, how it just pulls off. And then what another thing is, they always suggest that you don't cut the remainder of your fabric because you may cut it the size of the mat. But what if you're like with last time, my project ended way before the end of the mat, before the fabric. So don't cut your fabric, let it hang off the side of the mat. So then you can use it for your next project. So now that you've seen how I cut it, here are the pieces that I have. So then what I did was I did multiple. So now I have all my pieces cut, right? The next step would be placement. So then I placed this is what the pattern looks like. And then I intermittently took my did I do this right? Yeah. No. Oops. This one and this one. This isn't right. This goes here. There we go. Now it looks right. Like this. And then we could always throw in this and this. And there I have my block, right? So from there, I was able to create these blocks. And that's how you use your Cricut to cut your quilt blocks out. I wanted to show you some other projects that work with the Cricut and other things that you can purchase with the Cricut. We have a couple minutes left. This is heat resistant tape. So for instance, if you wanted to see this, Pat, we actually, this is smart iron-on. So this is smart iron-on. We cut the template and then we use the tape to hold the template in place while we ironed on the applique. So there's heat resistant tape. Here's an example of the knife blade kit. So if you wanted the knife blade and you needed the kit to, a new kit, here's, like I told you, the iron-on products, and they come all different colors. Here's your vinyl. Vinyl can be used for almost anything. You can make a sticker, an applique, wording. You can put it on glassware, wood, boxes. And this is really important. This is your transfer tape. What this does is, if you have letters or if you have things that are not hooked together when you cut them, you lay this on top while it's still on the mat. and then you pull it up and well, while it's still on the mat, you remove everything that you don't need. You leave all the lettering and anything else, any applique that you need, and you lay this on top, and it's almost like a tape, and it will then keep all your pieces together. Very, very important. Very, very important. Now, I wanted to also show you, so when we were talking about different products, well, here's wool fabric from Weeks Dye Works. I love cutting out any applique pieces, anything like that with my Cricut. What I do is I actually put, before, if it's an applique, I put Misty Fuse or any type of bonding agent underneath it first. I iron it on. Then when I cut up my applique, I can iron it straight onto my project. And then I can either hand stitch around it if I'd like, or I can leave it raw applique, raw edge applique. So that's what I like to do. I hope you guys were informed and you are really excited about doing some more projects with your Cricut. And I hope that I was able to inspire you to do all that you can do, be all that you can be with your Cricut. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.